Hello, my dears, Daniela here, and welcome to another episode of the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. I am so excited to share this week's episode with you because I am just a sucker for inspirational stories, and my goodness, do we have one for you today. So I love stories of women who have just been through so much and really made it in spite of everything. And that's exactly what happened to my friend and Growth Factor student, Lauren Hum. Now, Lauren shares about a just tragic loss in her life that happened at a really pivotal moment and how she got through it and how she went on to decide to build her spa, literally having a newborn in one arm and her laptop in another, just trying to figure it out. And today, 3 years later, that spa generates a multi-six-figure revenue. And did I mention that she's in a very small town in Arkansas? You know, a lot of times we think that like to have success like that, you've got to be in a big city or something like that. But no, she has done it. So if you're going through a hard time in your life, but you still have big dreams, this is the episode for you. And even if you're not going through a hard time, like it's just so inspirational, the approach that she's taken and the stories that she's shared. I think it will definitely lift your spirits. So I really want you to listen, and no matter what, know that you can do this too. All right, so I won't keep you in suspense any longer. Let's go ahead and play that interview. All right, Lauren, I am so happy to have you here on the Spa Marketing Made Easy. I wonder how many times I've said that. I think like at least 130 times. I'm happy to have you here on the podcast to share your story. You've got an incredible story that I think will really inspire and motivate so many other individuals. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, Daniela. This is just a dream come true. I remember I started listening to you about 1.5 years ago whenever I was really trying to ramp up my business, and I never would have thought that I would actually be on the show with you. So this is incredible. Thank you for having me.
Isn't that kind of like a surreal moment? I always, with some of my coaches and things like that, I've been in a space where I'm like, wow, now I'm talking to you on your podcast. And it's incredible. Like, the power of connection and the power of action for sure. Yeah. And, you know, for our listeners, you're in our Growth Factor program. You have been one of our students that's really just shown up in such an incredible way and really just done the work. And that should definitely be acknowledged because it's just been so incredible to see even your growth. I know you've had incredible growth from the time you got into this industry, but even just your growth in the past several months of what you've accomplished and how you've put yourself out there and how you've done the work has just been absolutely incredible.
Well, thank you. And I mean, I think you said it really well. I mean, that's exactly what it is. It's just like, I don't feel like there's any real like secret to anything. It's just waking up and deciding like you're going to put one foot in front of the next and just try to just keep it going and not be afraid to show up and put yourself out there a little bit.
I think that's a lot harder than it seems, though. I think
it's the hardest part of it, really. Like if you can just do that, everything else is a little bit, that's the hardest part. It really is.
Those little consistent steps. But yeah. So let's start actually back at the very beginning of your story. So what was it that made you want to go to beauty school or what? Because you're a cosmetologist.
That's right.
So what was that? Like, how did that start in your life?
Yeah. So I guess my interest in the beauty industry started whenever I was a kid. I live in Arkansas, grew up here. We had a family friend who was a beautician, you know, it was the mid-90s. That's what everybody called him, was a beautician. And I remember going out to her house. She kind of lived like a little bit outside of town. She lived on some land and she had like a little shop over to the side of her house that she had converted into a little beauty shop. So I would spend some time out there and she would let me fold towels and tear foils for highlights.
She would let you do that. Don't you wish you had someone that you could let do that?
I know. And now that I'm thinking of it, I'm thinking that there were foils, but actually back then I think it's just everybody like put the cap on and then you'd pull your hair through the cap. So maybe she let me like clean out the cap. I don't know. But I was hooked at that point. I loved it. And I decided then that whenever I grew up, I was going to be a beautician. And do you remember that Fran Drescher movie with the Beautician and the Beast? It came out like in
I remember her voice. Like I was thinking her voice, but I don't remember the movie. No.
Well, I loved that movie and I was going to grow up and be a beautician like Fran Drescher in that movie. So anyways, all through, junior high and high school, I was always kind of the girl that like my friends would come over to the house before any, the weekend before we got to the movies, and I would do everybody's hair and makeup, and on proms, I would have appointments, for people to come to my house in my room and do their hair and makeup. And I really just loved that. It just really came naturally to me and I enjoyed it. But as I got closer to graduation from high school, college was just really expected of me, like not just from my family, but from myself. Like I felt like it was fine to like have this beauty thing, like as a hobby. That was like a cute, like little dream to have as a little girl, but like going to college, getting your 4-year degree was what you do if you have the opportunity. Mm-hmm. So I went through that whole time, just going through the 4-year college experience, not really having a lot of direction. Got done with one major, switched to another. Maybe I'll be happy over here doing this. Spent a lot of time, finally graduated with no direction really. And I was just like working a normal job, like nothing to do with my degree, nothing like that. And it was really just probably the worst part of my life because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I wanted to be or what I wanted to do. And here I was with a degree, but still no direction and no job really in it. And I was watching my friends, be accepted into law school and medical school and go to these graduate programs and joining the Air Force, just like all these great things. And I was just stuck with nowhere to go. And I finally just started remembering, like, what have I always wanted to do? I really wanted to be an entrepreneur. I had done some little things in college. Like I had a pet portrait business. People would send me pictures of their dogs and I would do like these cute little oil paintings for $100. That's good money for a college kid,
It was in your blood.
I loved it. Yeah. And so that's what I started focusing on. It's like, okay, what can I do where I get to be creative, get to do something that I direct, that I get to make some decisions for and grow something on my own. And I thought beauty industry, I went and got my hair done at this one place in Little Rock, which is just a little bit further away, a little bit bigger town than what I live in. I started kind of seeing this one hairstylist. She was posting things on Instagram. And this was probably like 7 years ago. And it was just right, especially in our area. Like the thought of hairstylists posting on Instagram was kind of new. So it was exciting to see this. So I walk into this hair salon and it's the coolest place. Like I'd never been into a hair salon like that before in Arkansas. Going to like the JCPenney's hair salon or like this little like mom and pop shop that's, downtown that's been there forever was just kind of all there was. But I walk into this place and it's all like girls my age. It's decorated really cool. It's part of like a really hip clothing store. And I'm looking around and I'm getting my hair done. I had a great experience. She did an amazing job. And I'm thinking, this is it. This is my jam. Like these girls.
Isn't it interesting how important the overall experience is?
Yes.
The overall.
Even down to the paint color. The paint color that they put on the wall, it was that millennial pink that had just gotten really popular around that time. And I was like, oh, wow. Like they had like a selfie station that had like the word like dope, like in graphic above. And not necessarily that that's like exactly what I would do, but I was like, this is so cool. This is so different.
It's different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that shifted. You're like, okay, this is it. This is it.
So I went and enrolled, or no, I didn't enroll. I got my information, came home, put it on the counter. My husband saw it and he's like, oh boy. Okay. So this is what we're going to do now, huh? And to his credit, I mean, he's so supportive and a great guy, but like, he's like, okay, now we're going to beauty school. Okay. I'm like, yeah, that's really what I want to do. So, pretty much
I went to aesthetic school like 6 months after I graduated college. So I totally feel you there.
Okay.
Like,
I didn't know that about you.
I did the whole college thing. Because it's like what you're supposed to do, and then I finished and I was like, okay, I'm going to go to aesthetic school because that's what I really want to do.
Yeah. So how old were you when you went?
22, I think.
22. Okay. So I was 27.
Okay.
About to turn 27. And I went and I talked to my dad. And bless him, like he is the most loving, generous, supportive dad anybody could ever have. But I'll never forget that he looked at me and he said, you're going to waste that good brain on beauty school. No, you're going to waste that good brain on cutting hair. Mm. And he wasn't saying it to crush me. He was saying it because from his perspective and his generation, that you work hard to provide a better life so that your kid doesn't have to go to a trade school, so that they have the opportunity to go to a 4-year college, get a good degree, and have a better life than having to work in the trade industry.
I think that's something we struggle with so much today, because people have this perception that, you're not smart enough to go to college if you go to beauty school. You're not, you will never make enough money if you go to beauty school. Exactly. And the thing is, there's so many estheticians out there and cosmetologists and people in this industry who are making 6, 7, 8-figure salaries, depending on the size of their business. And, obviously they're entrepreneurs, but still, like, they're making really good money and they don't have the insane college debt that other people do, so I think it's a really important thing to be aware of, is that, like, you can be smart and pretty. You can follow your passion, and it's like, it's just something that we really need to address as a society. So I think, like, sharing your story and seeing more and more people that, like, hey, I love this industry. I'm passionate about this, and I'm very successful doing what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like I feel like our culture is starting to catch up to see the value and the necessity for trade professions.
I do too.
Yeah. So that's really exciting. I mean,
it'll be really interesting once our kids are at that age, like if college will even be, I think, I know this is kind of off the subject, but I think that, like, there's always going to be a place for traditional college if you're an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, some specific path.
Of course.
I don't think we're going to see as many people going to college just because that's what they're supposed to do.
Right.
I think we're going to see a lot more people in trade schools, and who knows what jobs will even be there that we have. I mean, like, if you think when I was a kid, YouTube didn't exist. No one used the internet, there was all of these things, and now it's like just a completely different world. So we have no idea how much things are going to change in the next 15, 20 years,
No clue how it's going to, and new jobs are just creating every day. I mean, based on, and the trade industry. So, I mean, even just in the beauty industry, if we look at just the jobs that we're able to create for people, like I hired a college girl to manage our social media. Mm-hmm. No, I mean, that's incredible. Like, she comes in and she gets to, like, play around on Insta. I mean, she works hard, but she gets to, do our social media. That's a job. She's got a skill that is needed.
Yeah. No, 100%.
So,
okay. So you go to cosmetology school. Mm-hmm. What happens next?
So, I enroll in cosmetology school, and my start date is a few months out, and short in that window of time, I find out that I'm pregnant with my first baby. And it was just, oh my gosh. Okay. okay, so here we go. This was not planned exactly. I'm married. We know where babies come from and all of that, but it was not a planned pregnancy.
I'm glad you know where babies come from.
I do. I went to college. I learned that. Yeah. So here I am. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, we're going to beauty school and I'm going to do this pregnant. Okay. And again, it just kind of goes back, like just put one foot in the front of the other and just got to keep going. So, going to school and everything. And, I get to about 33 weeks in my pregnancy, and very unfortunately, I lost the baby at that point. I had a stillborn baby when I was 33 weeks pregnant, right in the middle of cosmetology school. And just the bottom of my world just dropped out after that. I mean, just the grief that comes from losing a pregnancy. And Daniela, like, I know that you talked some about it. It just really makes you question like any belief of any like good or purpose that's in the world,
I have goosebumps right now. And I feel like, it's funny because in my coaching, my husband always teases me that I just make grown women cry every day because we go to these deep things. And I said, there's two people that have ever made me cry, and you were one of them, just from sharing that bit of information. And it's because I know what it means to lose a baby as well. And I can't imagine being like almost as pregnant as I am now and going through that. It's a different thing when you lose a baby in the first trimester. I'm not trying to like say one is better or worse, but I can't imagine being at 33 weeks and still having to deliver and, all of that. So it's just incredible to know that you went through something so painful and here you are,
Sure. Well, thank you. But I mean, again, life goes on, you go through grief and, life goes on, and it does. And so whenever I took a few weeks off, to just mourn in private, and whenever I came back very shortly after, a classmate, I'm not going to say his name because I just I haven't gotten permission or anything from family or anything like that, but like a very well-liked member of our very suddenly and unexpectedly passed away. So here we are. I mean, it was just such a dark time. We were a small little class. We'd gotten really close in our little cosmetology class. I come back with this like dark cloud hanging over me. One of our classmates, a young man, had just passed away, like very unexpectedly. It was just a dark little cloud was just hanging over that school at that time. But I will tell you that the way the support and the friendship and the connections there at that school, and I'll say the name of the school, it's the Salon Professional Academy. It was such a positive experience with that group of people from the staff and the students that we really came out of it. I mean, just having that support network was just wonderful. And it made it easier for sure. And it was in that and going through that I was really became aware of just a passion for the people in the beauty industry. I really believe that people get into the beauty industry because they want to connect with people, they want to make people feel better, and they want to just be around people. Mm-hmm. So I just feel like that was just a group of individuals who were just naturally inclined to be a positive influence.
Yes, they're incredible women. And I can see it just in our groups that we have, whether it's the Spa Retail Rockstar, Growth Factor, or Post with Purpose or whatever, the level of support among the women in there is just incredible. We are, as estheticians, I think, natural caregivers and do want to support one another.
Yes. And that just, it shined so clearly. And that to me just it just created this bond with the industry, because whenever I look back on that year of my life, I could so easily have looked back on that and thought that was the worst time of my life. But because of where I was in that school with those people, I am able to look back on it as one of the best times. Mm-hmm. There were hard times, but I grew so much. I got this education into a field that I love that has been able to provide me this wonderful life of doing something that I enjoy. And it's just it was a wonderful experience. Yeah.
Yeah. That's incredible. So you graduate school.
Mm-hmm. So I was very lucky and got pregnant with my son, who is 3 years old now, very shortly after that. So whenever I graduated, I was pregnant. I stayed home for a little while to deliver him, kind of go through the newborn stage. And at this point, it's time. I'm starting to kind of ramp up and being, getting ready to like build my business. I know I'm going to like open up and go back to work whenever he was 6 months old. So I kind of refer to my business and my son as twins. That's how I feel. Like, I feel like they're twins. I kind of got my little niche. So I went to the beauty school, but kind of as a little side note, microblading started kind of popping up around this time. And there was nobody really in my area who was doing it yet. There maybe were a few, but nobody was really advertising it very much, that kind of thing. And I saw an opportunity to get into that niche. So I started my training for that right about the same time that my son was born, and then stayed at home with him some. And so whenever I was trying to build up the business, I had a newborn in one arm and a laptop in the other, trying to build this business from my sofa. So that's kind of like my story, right? So here we
are twins.
Yeah,
your business baby and your baby boy.
Yeah, like football hold with a baby in one arm and like laptop in the other, Yeah, and so I knew that I wanted to do my business differently. I knew that I wanted to do it on a more professional, higher level than what I saw a lot of beauty industry professionals who were graduating from beauty school. What I wanted to do it differently. I knew I wanted to take it in an entrepreneurial direction that was going to set me up so that I could use this as a stepping stone to bigger things down the line. Okay. I knew I didn't want to work for somebody else. There's nothing wrong with that at all. That is totally the best path for a lot of people, but for me, it's not what I wanted. Mm-hmm. So I knew that I had to create a foundation that was going to give me a professional reputation in our community. And the way that I knew to do that was to get online and to social network with other people in the community. So I started researching and this at this time, I knew nothing. Like, I knew absolutely nothing about anything. Like, I called one of my husband's friends who's a professional coder, and he comes over and like sets me up like a WordPress account. I knew nothing about how to have a domain name. Like, where do you get that? Like, I asked him, I'm like, okay, so when it says like www.
Whatever the website,
how do you get that? Like, I didn't know. I didn't even know it goes.
For me, like, getting the email was the hardest thing. I was like, how can my email be Daniela at Addo Aesthetics?
Right.
That was like, I remember that being like a big challenge that I was so excited when I figured out.
Nobody teaches you these things, right?
No,
they don't. So here I was with that base level of knowledge, which is base level 0, trying to like Google how to start a business, it was so tedious. It was so time consuming. It was so confusing. And I kept like trying to find something to teach me how to do it. But at the time, like, nobody was really unless you were just like some big salon in a big city, who could just like pay somebody to come and set you up a website. Like, that's all there was. Like, so somehow I managed to do it. It was hard. It was very confusing. I spent a lot of time going back and forth, trying to piece it all together. But I managed to do it. And whenever I opened my doors for business, surprisingly, it started happening pretty quickly for me. And it was because I was showing up on social media, was showing up on Google, showing up in the SEO. And I was asking people, like, how are you finding me? And they're telling me, I'm finding you online.
Mm-hmm.
And so
what year was this? What year was this when you first opened?
It wasn't that long ago. I mean, it was 2017 or yeah, it would have been mid 17.
Okay.
Yeah. But again, we're in Arkansas, we're a couple years behind the big cities. So that was basically, how it started for me. Just showing up online and being there. And I think that a lot of people, not everybody out there, and everybody out there who's listening is not in a big city. It's kind of the easy default whenever you hear all these brands talk or anybody business, it's almost like the default is they assume that everybody is in a large urban area. Well, they're not. There are lots of us out here in these smaller towns in middle America that, we don't have the same lifestyle as people that live in bigger cities.
But I do want to just share, without getting too much, you are now running a multi-six-figure business with employees. Right.
In a small Arkansas town.
So
and that's kind of what I'm getting at is like, people think that because we're in a small Arkansas town, you can't do it. We don't have the same life. Yeah, maybe we don't, but but being in a small town, I'm telling you, if you watch what some people are doing in these big cities and don't just say, oh, well, that's just for somebody that lives in a big city. People around here won't get it, won't care about it, don't want it, can't afford it. That's not true. It's not true. And you actually have a pretty good advantage because not as many of your competitors are doing it.
Right. You want to have the millennial pink with the dope on the wall. You want to be in Arkansas. Yes. You want to be the brand that stands out and is doing something different, because that's going to really inspire. I mean, look at what that business did for you, right? That hair salon. It's like, wow, this is not the JCPenney salon or not the whatever, it's like nothing wrong with the JCPenney salon. I'm sure there's lots of people that love it and that's great. But to have something different and unique that speaks to you and really creates that experience, which is something that I think is so important and so overlooked, is the entire experience from the time that the client finds you online through, booking their appointment, having their service, through the follow-up. Like that's so key. And for you to create that, and in this is your third year in business then?
Yeah.
Third year in business. That's incredible. That's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah. I'll have we'll be 3 years in May. So,
wow.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I just focused on that, grew, doing things debt-free was a big part of my story. Just trying to start very small, very niche. I cut out the hair early on and just focused on just the microblading. I did my numbers and saw where, the profit lies, cut out the extras. I niched down, focused on that, and boom, that's when the bookings skyrocketed. When I stopped trying to be
everything to everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And luckily I had the foresight to be able to do that early on. Mm-hmm. Saved up money and then just tried to just grow a little bit at a time with as little as how can I do the most possible for the least amount possible while not compromising quality and best interest of clients.
And I think that is so important, because so many individuals are like, oh, I love this and I love this and I love this. And it's like, it's great that you love all those things, but you're also running a business, right? So you've got to figure out the balance of like, what do your clients want from you? What do you enjoy doing? And what is the most profitable? And where those intersect is your niche. You've got to find those three things to really get to that level of profit where you can support your livelihood, where, the more money you make, the more people you help, which I think is very, very important. So here's what I'm super excited about. What's next for you?
So I think the next thing for me is to start taking that passion that I have for the beauty industry and the people in the beauty industry and trying to help more people become financially stable while doing something that they love in this industry. Because I look at myself now, and Daniela, you said it, like, thank you for saying that. Like, I am at this point a multi-six-figure spa owner, but I can honestly say that I look back on that girl sitting on that sofa 3 years ago with a baby in one arm and a laptop in the other, trying to figure it all out. And I'm more proud of her then than I am the person I am now, because that was just hard work and like hope, you know?
It's incredible, because I know when I had my daughter, there was like, it was so crazy. I could not open my computer for 4 months. Mm-hmm. I was just like, this is insane. I'm not sleeping. You know, my daughter had some health issues in the beginning that was really challenging, but just the thought of like trying to build a business at that time was just, and I had my business when I had my daughter, but it was just very different than what it is today. And I could not open my computer. So to think that you figured out WordPress, which WordPress, you know, thank God for Squarespace now, because
oh yeah, we're using Squarespace now, but we started with WordPress. Yeah.
Squarespace is so much easier. But, you know, when you're trying to figure out WordPress, which a lot of people love, but you really have to have a lot of technical skill to get that built, and to do that with a baby and get to multi six figures in 3 years time. That is something to be very, very proud of. And I know that you've said to me privately, like, I just want to help other people not have to go through the same struggle that I went through.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really, really beautiful thing. The more that we can give back in our industry, the more that we can, even if you're just helping one person to not have to go through that, then that's incredible, because you have no idea like the ripple wave that will have for others. So you're going to be hosting an event in Arkansas, correct?
I am. Yes. Yeah. So that's kind of the next step for me. I feel pretty settled in where I am with my clientele. I love my clients. I love what I get to do, but I'm kind of excited for a new.
Ready for the next level?
Yeah, I really am. I really am. And I'm just really excited to get in some rooms with some other beauty industry professionals and just show them some of the tips and tricks and just action steps that I took to help grow my business. It's called Activate Your Online Presence. We're going to host it in Little Rock. It's going to be a very small group of people. And that is where we're going to walk through. And you're going to actually walk away with action steps that you can take that you are going to be able to see results quickly so that you can get your books filled fast.
I love that. Not just theory, not just like, hey, you should do this or you should do that, but like, here's the step-by-step. Here's how you do your website. Here's how you do reviews. Here's how you do, like, giving the actionable things that they can do to see real change that you are the proof of, right?
I mean, you can absolutely stay on your sofa and figure it all out. I believe that you can. I did. But if you want a faster way to get there and kind of blast through all that, then this event would be the place for you.
Awesome. So when is it?
So it's going to be August 9th and 10th in Little Rock.
Perfect. Well, we'll be sure to include all the links for, the other thing that I love about this is that, you know, you're talking about, hey, there's people in small towns too that want education. There's people, and there is online education out there. And I think online education is phenomenal. It really kind of breaks down the barrier for the people that can't travel and whatnot. But there's nothing that beats an in-person event. There's to have that connection, to be able to ask questions in real time and just have conversations, see the body language. Like, I love, love, love in-person events so much and think that you get so much out of them. So to have an event in a small town that's like, hey, you know, you don't have to go to New York. You don't have to go to Atlanta. You don't have to go to Los Angeles to get this kind of training, I think is just really, really incredible. So I'm super excited that you're offering that. I'm super excited to watch you go into this next level because I think that you have so much that you can offer our industry. So very excited for you.
Thank you, Daniela.
Anything else that you want to add before we call this episode complete?
No, I think that we covered everything. I'm just so happy to have everybody hear my story. I hope that something that I said maybe resonated with you. And I would just love to help you see what you can do next in your business. If you're just starting out, I'm your girl.
Awesome. So we will include all the links to stay connected with Lauren below this episode. Be sure to follow her on social media. We've got links to her event if that's something that you're interested in. And if you want to keep the conversation going, be sure to head over to the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast, our Facebook group over there. Lauren's in there as well. And we'll catch you on the next episode.